So far, we have talked about encryption where Alice and Bob already share a secret key K. And that works well if Alice and Bob can agree on the key maybe ahead of time. But this leads to an important question. So how did Alice and Bob securely share the key in the first place, right? And so if Alice and Bob have already met in person, maybe they can exchange the key directly, but in many real situations, they may not have met, right? For example, when your browser connects to a website, you do not already share a secret key with that website. When you're accessing the bank website, it's not that you agreed on something ahead of time with them. So many types of settings, you want to be able to do this without having to have met this person or whatever it is before. So if Alice tries to send the secret key over the public channel, so Eve can also see it, but if Eve sees the key, then of course Eve can decrypt everything. And so this is known as the key exchange problem. And so the question is, can Alice and Bob establish secure communication even if everything they send is visible to Eve? So there's no backdoor communication, it's just Alice and Bob, there's a communication channel, that's the only way they can communicate with each other. Is there a way for them to establish a secure communication? And so at first, this might seem impossible. If Eve hears everything, how could Alice and Bob end up with a secret that Eve does not know? And the surprising answer is that, like in modern crypto, this is possible through something called public key cryptography. So what is public key cryptography? So the idea now is that instead of Alice and Bob sharing one secret, Bob has two keys. So now Bob here is going to have two keys. Bob is going to have, so let me write it here. Bob has a public key and a secret key that he generates. And the idea now is that Bob can share the public key, but he keeps the secret key to himself, okay? And how does this work? So this works in, we'll show a scheme that does this, but what's the idea here? The idea is that when Bob shares the public key, we also assume that Eve, so here we can assume that Eve also sees the public key. So we're not assuming that Eve sees anything that Alice doesn't see. So Bob can transmit to everyone the public key. And now the way that it works is that Alice, her message, she encrypts it with the public key and sends it. And this whole thing is designed in such a way that if you have the secret key, you are able to decrypt, but with the public key, it's very hard computationally to decrypt. And we're going to see an example of this, which uses essentially Euler's theorem. But the point is, the idea is that somehow it's like what you want is functions where somehow it's sort of easy to compute this when you have the public key, but undoing this is very hard unless you have a secret key.